The water was very hot. So no one dared to go into the bath because they realized that if they would enter the bath, they would be scorched, they would be hurt. And so everyone was standing back. And one person was a bit crazy. He decided to go in anyway, and he went in and he got hurt. But then he cooled down the water so that everyone else was able to go in. So that's the idea of Amalek. No one else dared to attack the Jewish people because they saw the miracles. Amalek said, we don't care. And they attacked anyway. Now the other nations saw that Amalek did it. So therefore they decided they would also, they lost their good fear of attacking the Jewish people. So what does this represent? So there are two kinds of evil. There's a kind of evil that comes because we forget God, but it's not sort of conscious, deliberate, willful evil. And then there's evil that is sort of like evil in the way it's used in common language. It's corrupt. It's completely lacking any justification, any merit. And that's the clip of Amalek, the negative force of Amalek. Amalek says, I know that God exists. I know that the Jewish people were chosen and they were taken out of Egypt and so on. But I don't care, I'll rebel against them anyway. So it's this kind of willful evil that enables all the other kind of evil. Evil that comes from, sin that comes from temptation, sin that comes from just bad character traits. So there are two levels of this. One level is sort of on the worldwide, the macrocosmic level that we've been talking about, in terms of not necessarily the physical nation of Amalek, but a kind of just grotesque, anti-religious, anti-God force that just is coming out against God with full force. So that makes it so that everyone else feels, oh, I don't really have to respect God's word and be careful how I act. So that's on a mass scale. We all observe that in the media and what have you. But also on a personal level within ourselves. So we're all created with good character traits and bad character traits. That's just fundamental to human nature. And so we all have weaknesses and desires to commit sins. And the question is, what gives us the strength to overcome those desires? So what gives us that strength is fear of God. And so there's one part of us that says, well, I should get angry, or maybe it won't be a problem to lie in that business interaction or what have you. It's not a big deal. So these are little temptations, but they're not they're not saying go against God. They're just saying, just don't worry about it. Just go ahead. Just when is a person in an inner state in which they are susceptible to that kind of bad side to lead them to gloss something over and so on, not in a way that they want to go against God, but just because they're forgetting about God. They're more susceptible to that when God is less in the picture. So the part of us that says, who cares? What difference does it make? It's not a logical. So the fundamental quality of Amalek is that it's completely illogical. Because if God performed miracles, and that's a reality, then obviously you shouldn't start up with the Jewish people if God protected them. It makes no sense. And that's why none of the nations would do it. But just to go against, without any logic, without any reason, that's the force of Amalek. So if we think about it rationally, we understand that God created the universe, and God created us, and God gives us our health, and God gives us all the blessings we have. It makes no sense to sin. It's just illogical. So therefore, if we're thinking rationally, we would never sin. Why do we sin? Because we take God out of the picture. So there are two different things. There's the natural desire to succumb to whatever our personal weaknesses might be. And then there's the desire to reject God. The desire to reject God, that is the unique character of Amalek that is also within each and every one of our inner selves. And that's the root of all evil. And so when we accept God, when we commit ourselves to God, when we increase our fear of God, so then we fight back against that inner side of ourselves. So a truly rational person, not the way it's characterized in the secular world, that if you believe in God you're naive and simplistic, and if you reject God then you're a big intellectual. But a truly rational person understands that God created the world, God created the mind, God created our opportunities, and our success and happiness in life depends upon our devotion to God. And so that's being rational. That's thinking with your mind. Sin comes from the opposite. Sin comes from when we follow our emotions and we forget about what we should be aware of, which is the existence of God, the presence of God, the fact that our blessing comes from God, our very ability to do anything right now comes from God. We could just suddenly, God forbid, just die at any moment. Everything is in the hands of God. So that's the mind talking. So the key to being a righteous person is constant awareness of God and what God is giving us, God's laws, Noahide laws, and so on. And then that'll sort of inform the person's behavior and give him strength to overcome those temptations which we face throughout the day, all the time. So getting back to Amalek. So this is the idea that we should, Purim is about eradicating Amalek. Haman was killed. Haman was hanged. And what that represents is that we want to uproot that kind of influence from our lives. We want to reject it completely, wipe it out, erase the memory of Amalek. Don't accept that at all within your life. So we should be doing that all year round. But Purim is sort of focuses on that message. In general, in Torah, we find so many lessons. Each festival and each significant day has a lesson that applies all year round. It's just that we devote a certain time of the year to sort of inspire ourselves with that particular lesson, and then we hope that will last for the rest of the year until the following year, and we'll learn about it again. So we need to be aware that there's this side of ourselves within ourselves. We certainly need to be aware that it's out there in the world. So a lot of these, these secular influences, that's what they're fundamentally all about. They're not rational. They definitely clothe themselves in very rational, intellectual, sophisticated language. They're the professors and the intelligentsia. But it's all about, really, there is no God, do what you want. That's what it comes down to. And just more and more ways of justifying, just disgusting, terrible behavior. And so what the Noahide movement needs to be about is about eradicating Amalek in the sense of promoting fear of God, love of God, awareness of God, and there's also this dynamic that we see how Amalek influenced the other nations. So in other words, you have two extremes. You have the nation of Amalek in one extreme, and what they represent is a war against God. And then you have the Jewish people, I mean, especially those following the tradition, the Orthodox Jews. So they represent the God's messengers to light up the world with the awareness of God. So, and then you have all the nations in between. So there are these two competing forces at either extreme, and so I wrote a book about how the importance of the Jews being involved in spreading the Noahide laws, and the purpose is that the Jewish people and the Noahides who come on and join this movement, so we will be increasing the influence of upon the nations to come over to the side of service of God, and eradicating the influence of Amalek. Now, so far I've been speaking about Amalek in the spiritual sense, as a spiritual sort of force and idea. But I should also mention that Amalek is actually a physical nation. And so we know who the Jews are, because they have their ancestry goes through the mother or a convert, according to Jewish law, and so on. Who is exactly from Amalek, we do not necessarily know, but it seems clear that if you see someone coming out, against God, and in a very aggressive way, he's either from Amalek or he's been influenced by someone from Amalek. There are people from Amalek alive. Just like there are Jews alive, there's a physical Jewish nation, there are actual people from Amalek alive, and they're causing trouble. They're the ones stirring up trouble. Now, there is a mitzvah in the Torah to go and actually kill Mebus Amalek, and I'm not advocating any violation of the law, God forbid. But, so the thing is, we do not know who is actually from Amalek, so we're covered there. I'm not advocating any but the concept is that it's actually a very real thing. Just like Jews are very real, the people from Amalek are very real. They're there. You could definitely just give very good guesses about people who are from Amalek. I know Hitler or Margaret Sanger or all these people who really devoted their lives to evil. It'd be a good bet that they're from that nation. So we have our work cut out for us, and this room should be only the beginning. This is incredible. But God willing, there'll be a center like this in every single neighborhood in the whole of the world. And thank you. And and that is the war against Amalek that we're talking about on Purim, and so it exists in the macrocosm, exists in the microcosm, and God should bless us that we should succeed in promoting awareness of God and fear of God and the law of God, and we should all be blessed.